Hey guys, real quick video lecture here, continuing our kind of adventure with the evidence for evolution. So let's get right into it. So common ancestry, biochemistry, yet another avenue of evidence for the fact that evolution has occurred and is still occurring. So the field of biochemistry has to do with DNA and proteins. Biochemists have found that DNA between species is surprisingly similar. I mean, it's not a huge surprise because, again, all of the DNA of all species on Earth are just adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. But actually, if you look at the proteins that we make and the amino acids we make based off of our DNA, it's really, really similar. And this suggests that all species have a common ancestor somewhere. So if you look over on the right here, for example, we have a human right here, and 4 amino acids that we would make compared to a horse, gorilla, chimp, and zebra. Now you can see with a chimp, it's actually extremely similar. It's very similar with the gorilla as well. Actually, with the chimp, it's exactly similar, and with the gorilla, it's extremely similar as well. And that is because actually our closest relatives are indeed chimps. So humans and chimps share 98.8% of our DNA, which is crazy. 98.8% of the blueprints that make you could make a chimp. I mean, I'm missing the 1.2% that's different, but if you just added that in from a chimp, it would still make a chimp, which is crazy. So we're 20 times more similar looking at our DNA than mice are to rats. So humans and chimps are 20 times more similar than mice are similar to rats looking at DNA, which is pretty impressive. So we ended up having a common ancestor somewhere from 4 to 13 million years ago. We're not exactly sure where. So you can see that here. Here's us. Here's chimps on this big family tree of primates. And our next closest relative are gorillas. So basically what it is we're here, chimps are here, our common ancestor was here, and then that common ancestor had a common ancestor with gorillas right there, and then they had a common ancestor with orangutans right there, and it keeps going down and down. So it's actually really, really cool, kind of our big family tree. So what are some ways we can study evolution of life? To recap what we've been talking about: structural adaptations such as mimic and camouflage, fossils, homologous, analogous, and vestigial structures, embryology, and biochemistry. Those are really the big ways we're talking about in our course anyway, the big pieces of evidence that we have for evolution. So one last one real quick is common ancestry with geographical distribution. So basically what this is saying is that you can kind of look and see how these, for example, this is in California, these salamanders have a big kind of barrier right here. So that barrier, it's either mountains or desert, I cannot remember which one it is, but either way, they cannot cross through that barrier very easily at all. So if you look at the distribution of the salamanders, you can see that they kind of up here have this kind of like solid color, and they have that solid color all along the coast, but on the other side of that barrier, they all have the spotted color, which is really interesting, and that's because all of these salamanders are related, and these salamanders are actually related to them too. But it's just the fact that they all have interbred with each other more recently because of the side of the geographic barrier they're on. So basically, all of this comes together to say change over time leads to speciation. So what's speciation? Speciation is the evolutionary process where new biological species arise. It's basically how we get new species on Earth over time. So you can see here, like Mr. Potato Head example, I think it works really well. So you start off with this ancestor that's just has no face. And the first kind of lineage to split off from the no-face potato is the potato with ears. And so the potato with ears and all their relatives are over here. Then you keep going over here with no face, and then you get eyes. Eyes are the next thing that would have developed with this potato head. So over here, they don't have any ears, but they do have eyes. So then these guys have eyes too. They're just like as they're split off from that branch, and these guys have eyes and a nose. And then splitting off from their branch, those guys have eyes, a nose, and a mouth. So we're going to kind of look at exactly what's going on with speciation in the next lecture and kind of work with it in class tomorrow as well and on Friday. And we're actually going to talk about in the next lecture tomorrow night the man who discovered natural selection, Charles Darwin, who's a really interesting guy. So yeah, I hope that was kind of a quick update for you guys about everything we're talking about, finishing up the evidence section for evolution. And now we're actually going to talk about the actual mechanism behind evolution, natural selection. So yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow, and have a great day.